Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Big Red Andy Reid. He gets the job done. He finally wins a Super Bowl. And I'll be honest with you, I was actively rooting for him, jumping up and down, clapping hard during that comeback stretch late in the fourth quarter. I was going nuts, and I didn't expect to go nuts. I didn't expect to heavily be involved and invested in the Chiefs throughout this game. Entering the night, I said, I want Andy Reid to win, but I don't truly care what happens. But as plays went on, I noticed I'm screaming at the television. I'm screaming at big plays. I'm freaking out when good things happen. I'm yelling, "Come on, Mahomes," or I'm screaming at the Chiefs defense to make a tackle. So in that moment, I realized, okay, damn, maybe I really do want this guy to succeed. Maybe my passion in this particular game is all for Andy Reid. So I let it ride, and I made it a thing. I accepted it. I embraced it. And I think it makes sense because there were times throughout his tenure here in Philadelphia where we got upset with some things that he did, clock management and things of that nature, and he wasn't able to get the job done. And yes, because the Eagles already won a Super Bowl, it was easier to root for him, but he was a big part of this organization and a big part of this city, and he went through a ton when it came to not just football, but things inside of his family when he was in Philly, and he is part of us. He's absolutely part of this city. So no matter what happened when he was here with the heartbreak and with the disappointment and things of that nature when it comes to the football field and not getting the job done, he's still one of us, and it's easy to root for the guy. When you hear players like Brian Westbrook and Brian Dawkins and those players that were involved throughout his run here in Philadelphia, it's so powerful. There's no one who speaks poorly about this man, Andy Reid. He has a big-time role when it comes to these players and their lives outside of football. And it's special. And arguably, he's a Hall of Famer without the hardware. Now you throw the hardware in the mix, and it's a no-brainer lock. And it wasn't as if this game's pretty. Listen, we're going to talk about this football game. We're actually going to talk about more than just the football game, the commercials or their lack thereof, and of course that halftime show, because I loved me some Shakira and J-Lo. I could watch that stuff all night long. I think I've actually watched all the videos blowing up on Twitter maybe 6,753 times because it was beautiful, because I loved everything that they did, the way that they were shaking their ass. Hey, listen, I'm all for it, you know what I'm saying? But before we dive into it more, I need to let you know about my sponsor, SeatGeek. Are you looking to go to any game out there, an NHL game, an NBA game, a college basketball game, a concert even? If so, if you use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page, you will receive $20 off of your total purchase. That's a no-brainer. That's free parking. Use the promo code BROADS today. So it wasn't as if this was a pretty football game by Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. All around, when you take a look at the game now that it's over, and because last year's game was so pathetic, it wasn't that bad. And it's not because last year's game was so pathetic, but it's hard to get to that level of ugly and boring football. So anything after that, following right after that, should be at least decent. But all around, I thought it was entertaining. There was enough action involved. It wasn't the best ever by any means, but I was invested and I was intrigued, and it caught my attention. I was totally dialed in big time. And that's not always the case when it comes down to the big game. So at least it gave me that. But for Pat Mahomes to come back from a double-digit deficit once again, it's special. He has the it factor. You don't just do this consistently. You don't just consistently come back from double-digit deficits in playoff games. But guess what you do if your name is Pat Mahomes? He had 2 interceptions. He was not throwing the football downfield. He was making dumb decisions in terms of just getting hit, taking full body contact from opposing defenders. One of them somehow, the ball ended up going backwards and out of bounds, but the defender got hurt more than Mahomes did, and it was a brutal collision. Like, all around, Mahomes was doing poorly throughout the game until fourth quarter action when the moment gets big, while you have Jimmy Garoppolo, the opposing quarterback, going 3 for 11 and an interception. So it wasn't as if he stepped up in the fourth quarter. It was the complete opposite. He fell apart. I wasn't juiced for this game all week long. Knowing it was Super Bowl week, it didn't get my blood going. I wasn't pumped up. Like, I didn't even preview the game saying this is what's going to need to happen with this team. That's what's going to happen with the other team. I didn't even feel the energy to do that. Once kickoff started, I kind of got going, but as the first quarter and second quarter got underway, it did. It hit me. It hit me during the game. But all throughout the week, I didn't have that energy. ESPN's in Miami. They're previewing the game. They got all sorts of guests on. They got big-time NFL guys on. It didn't move the needle. But I would say around that second quarter, the needle started to move, and that's when I started to get hype 3 feet from my television and spitting on the TV as I was screaming. So this is what went down. Early, you have Kyle Shanahan with some creative, unique scripted plays. Now, he made some boneheaded decisions, and the one that sticks out to everyone is the lack of timeout usage when it came to that first half and the end of the first half specifically. But we will get to that. San Fran actually had some really nice, beautiful scripted plays right out of the jump, and it ended up leading to a field goal for the 49ers after Kansas City gets the ball first and goes 3 and out. But the Chiefs do find a way to get going. Andy Reid goes for it on 4th and 1. They do this spinorama that they were all spinning at the line of scrimmage, and they had a direct snap, and it was a good, funky play without a doubt. Chiefs end up scoring, getting a touchdown. It's 7-3 Kansas City. Jimmy Garoppolo gets picked off. Brutal throw. It leads to a Kansas City field goal. 10-3 Kansas City. And it's weird. At that moment, I thought to myself, Kansas City's moving the ball. They're moving the football. They're scoring points consistently. Not as if it's 7 drives in a row or anything when I say consistently, but during that time of the football game, they did start out going 3 and out, and it wasn't pretty whatsoever. But then they put together a touchdown drive. Then they get an interception, and they score a field goal. Like, they seem to have mojo. And with Jimmy Garoppolo looking so ugly with that interception as he was getting pressured and just throwing the ball with his eyes closed as he's falling back, my gut feeling was, wow, are the Chiefs going to run away with this thing? And I know it's too early to say that, but I'm just telling you how I felt during that moment based off of those situations that occurred. And wouldn't you know, the 49ers find a way. Jimmy Garoppolo and that team finds a way. You even have Coleman back in the mix after that shoulder injury. They make a little bit of noise, and they tie the football game up 10-10. They go down, run the ball. They had plenty of opportunities. They had beautiful holes because the offensive line did their magic, and they would run the ball. And they were getting chunk plays. They were getting first downs. And they were able to cash in. 10-10. The 49ers had the ball. Well, actually, this is how it all happened. There was about 1:30 so left on the clock. Kansas City had to punt. Why isn't Kyle Shanahan using the timeout to stop the clock? What? That's just the dumbest thing in the world. You're letting all this clock run, then you get the football, and you're taking shots downfield. I saw people defending him saying, listen, the team runs the ball. That's why they're so successful. So you need all those timeouts because they're going to run the football. But in that moment, when they had the ball, they were taking shots downfield and hitting Kittle wide open on a beautiful throw. Now, it gets called for an offensive pass interference. By the technicality of the rule, that was an offensive pass interference. He had his arm extended. Now, it wasn't a lot. It was barely a push. But from the technicality side of it, I saw why they threw the flag. I saw the offensive pass interference. Is it ticky-tacky to me? And in that moment, should they have called it? And did it really make a difference on the throw, on the catch? Probably not. To be honest with you, probably not. But if you're going to go with the rule book, they made the right call, in my opinion. Now, it's frustrating from a 49ers standpoint. Definitely. If that happened to the Eagles, would I be pissed off in that situation? Yeah, probably. But I still understand why they threw the flag, because when you see the replay, it did happen. But getting back to Kyle Shanahan, it didn't make sense to not use your timeouts to save clock so you can move the ball downfield. Then afterwards, they just kneel it. And in the postgame, he talks about how they didn't want to give the ball back to Mahomes because they know how special that offense can be. So you're coaching scared? So you're afraid? You're afraid to give the ball back to the other team? And keep in mind, Kyle Shanahan was involved with that loss when he was on Atlanta to the New England Patriots, where it was an epic comeback, a 28-3 type comeback. So how can you coach scared? You can't. You flat out can't. That's the wrong way to do it. You can't be afraid of Pat Mahomes in that offense. Is that Shanahan saying, listen, I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he telling the world he didn't trust his quarterback? We all know that Garoppolo throws interceptions. He turns the ball over. That's been a knock on him all season long, and it seems like that's why they run the football a lot. Now, they definitely have a great offensive line and good running backs too. That plays a factor, but I think they lean that way because they don't trust Jimmy G as much as, say, other quarterbacks in this league. Now, I will give Shanahan credit when it comes to creating space and the formations and a lot of movement. He does come up with very unique runs, and they're very effective based off of what he dials up and the motions and all of that. But the end of the first half was bad. And that mindset affected how the rest of it played out. The second half came along, and the 49ers still had their mojo. But this time the play action was more involved. It felt as if that throw to Kittle sparked up Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe it had Shanahan think to himself, all right, I botched the timeouts, but that throw was so good, maybe I will trust Jimmy Garoppolo. Like that moment was when he realized maybe I will trust him more because that was a really good throw. And they would run the ball, play action, run the ball, play action, run the ball, play action. And it was being effective, not going to lie. Kansas City had no answer for them, and they were continuously getting first downs. It led to a field goal, and it led to a touchdown for the 49ers to take a 20-10 lead. Now, Mahomes threw a second interception before they scored that touchdown. You can credit Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa torched the offensive line, ended up swatting the ball out of Mahomes' hand. Mahomes fell on it, so they did not lose the football, but it created a 3rd and long situation for the Chiefs, and Mahomes threw the interception from there. I don't know where he was going. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The first interception he threw was the one where I didn't know where he was going. Tyreek Hill went deep, and he started to come back, and it wasn't even close. The ball was completely thrown in the wrong spot. This one, though, the second one, that was when he threw it behind Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had a first down. He threw it behind him. It hit off of his hands and ended up going into the defender. But Nick Bosa created that 3rd and long situation based off of blowing past the line and forcing a fumble, although the 49ers did not recover, of course. I saw the Chiefs pick off Garoppolo and it lead to a field goal. Now we're talking third quarter where I see Mahomes get picked off and it lead to a touchdown for Jimmy Garoppolo and that team. Well, that's a significant difference. That's game-changing stuff. Turning the ball over and getting 3 or getting 7, that changes outcomes of games. But it didn't in this one. Because this is when the magic really started to happen. Mahomes missed Hill on a play where he caught it, Shanahan challenged, it got brought back. It should have been caught. It should have been thrown better. It was low. So this was a 3rd and long. And this was the switch. This was the moment where the game went all the way to Kansas City. Mahomes throws a 40-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill. And oh, by the way, Hill finished with 105 yards. That set up a Kelsey touchdown. Kelsey ended up getting interfered with the play before, I believe, by Moore. And then that ultimately led to a Travis Kelsey touchdown. So it's 20-17, 49ers with 5:10 to go on the clock. Once they get the football back, they started around the Chiefs' 35. One-on-one, Sammy Watkins and why am I forgetting the cornerback's name, who I should never, ever, ever forget? Richard Sherman. I had a brain fart there. One-on-one, Sammy Watkins, Richard Sherman. It wasn't even close. Sammy Watkins blew right by him. And oh, by the way, Sammy Watkins finished with 98 yards on the day. This leads to a Damien Williams touchdown, and he had 104 yards on the ground with a touchdown. He also caught 29 yards and had another touchdown. So we had 2 touchdowns, and in my opinion, should have been the MVP. Like, Pat Mahomes won the MVP, right? And let me finish that drive. That makes it 24-17. And that's where the Chiefs took the lead, and from there it was all Chiefs. Jimmy Garoppolo did have Emmanuel Sanders wide open on a 3rd and 10. He was past all the Kansas City defenders, and Garoppolo put it too far ahead of him. It would have been a no-doubter touchdown if he was able to connect, but he threw the ball just a little bit too far. And from there, the Chiefs solidified the victory with a Damien Williams touchdown to put it in the end zone for a 31-20 lead. But going back to the MVP talk and the MVP discussion, Mahomes had a horrendous game. Yes, he had a great final 6 minutes, but if we're talking MVP, how is it not Damien Williams? You can argue Tyreek Hill was a player that could win it as well, but stop. Really? Really? How does Pat Mahomes get it? That just tells me whoever's the quarterback's going to win. You don't even need to be fantastic. He wasn't even good for 90% of the game. He was good for, 6% total. Damien Williams was running the football, and you got to credit Andy Reid and the coaching staff, Bieniemy as well. You're talking about a team that throws the ball. You're talking about a team that has so much speed and utilizes what Mahomes does out of the pocket. They ran the football. And you got a guy with over 100 yards on the ground. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't throw the ball a lot. They definitely did, but they ran the ball. Now, one thing I love about this is they battled adversity. It wasn't a good game for this team. And even Mahomes mentioned the 49ers defense, that was one of the most legit defenses he's ever played against. And it wasn't easy. And you saw him even rolling out of the pocket a couple times. Nick Bosa was a half an inch from sacking him, or he was getting a ton of pressure, and he didn't have the time and space that he was used to getting. And I also think he felt rushed and nervous because there were times where he did have that opportunity. He did have that throw to make, but maybe he was rushing his mechanics. The ball came out weird. It hit the ground before it got to the receiver, or it was a bad throw. It was off, things like that. And you can credit the defense for forcing him to throw that, but I also thought there were times where he just didn't do it right on his end either. It could be the moment. It could be the Super Bowl moment, right? It's very stressful, if you will. But the last 6 minutes or so, dynamite. And I love this Kansas City team. I think it's funny because the conversation I'm hearing now is this the next dynasty? Is this the next dynasty? I heard the same thing about the Eagles when they won. And they were talking about the Rams with Jared Goff and Sean McVay. Not, even though they didn't win it, they were talking about it before the Super Bowl game, before they lost, because here are 2 young guys. What the Patriots did was ridiculous, but not everyone's going to be a dynasty. It's just not how it works. Enjoy the moment. Travis Kelsey getting the ring, awesome. You had Jason Kelsey there as well. But the storyline's Andy Reid. That doesn't take away from what anybody else did, but the storyline's Andy Reid. The dude's a Hall of Fame coach, and he finally got hardware to make it a no-doubt, no-brainer. lock that he makes the Hall of Fame. And it was an awesome moment just seeing his smile, seeing him running to the field. You see him just being really proud of himself. And not just that, what's he do? He automatically goes up to his players, and it's all about them. And he even praised the Lories and the Eagles organization for helping him be the man that he is today and embracing the journey he had when he was here in this city, because it led to what he is right now. And speaking of Eagles, how about Wiz? Really? The Eagles cut Wiz because he stinks for them and he ends up winning a Super Bowl with Kansas City? Shady got a ring as well, but it's hard to really feel that excitement because it wasn't as if he was producing for them. Let's get to the commercials real quick. They sucked. The Super Bowl used to be where there was funny commercials. You would laugh. You would crack up. They just suck. And I wonder if it's because no one wants to pay that much money. Because you can get your message out in other platforms, social media, Twitter, Instagram, or regular TV not on the Super Bowl. Is it worth $5 million for 30 seconds? You see the Doritos, the Pepsis, the Tide Pods, things like that. Why can't they throw in funny commercials? There were just like no funny commercials. A couple chuckles. I laughed at a couple of them. One that sticks out to me, I believe it was Ellen, and they were talking to the Alexa when they were leaving the house, and they thought, well, what did they used to do? And it would go back in time and things like that. Little chuckles here and there, but nothing hilarious. Come on, we got to do a better job than that. Maybe lower the prices to get back to humor, or maybe it's because the world is so sensitive these days. I actually saw people freaking out about J-Lo and Shakira because they felt, I don't know, hurt? Or that's not the right word, offended. They felt offended that they were shaking their butts and pretty much twerking towards the camera at the end. Huh? I don't know. That's not the way my mind works. I was definitely not offended. I was actually chanting that they should do more, right? I was encore, encore, encore. I thought that was spectacular. Seriously, I'm not just being, a Joe, if you will. That stands for jerk off, of course. I'm not just being a Joe because I enjoyed what they were doing, dancing and whatnot, and they are attractive women. I'm talking about in terms of, I thought they put on a good show. I really did. I thought they put on a good show. It was entertaining, good songs, good dancing. I was really impressed with the halftime show. Normally that doesn't catch my attention. It's all right. When's the game coming back on? All right, Justin Timberlake, get off the stage, or any of them. I don't care about the halftime show. But my eyes were glued to the television. I thought it was entertaining. Moral of the story here is the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. It was a remarkable comeback. The 49ers were up double digits late in the game, and they fall apart. That's on them, and Kyle Shanahan has to live with it once again. Now, this doesn't hurt as much as the 28-3, unless it does because he's the head coach. So maybe it does for him, but he's got to figure some things out. Because I thought there were some coaching mistakes that he made. I also don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I know they paid him decent money. And listen, to get to the Super Bowl, you have to be something, right? It's not like he's a trash can out there. But you need to be a threat, right? You need to be a threat. And I don't know if he is a legit threat. The running game will only get you so far, but at some point, you got to make plays. And the play action was effective with him, specifically coming out of that second half, and he was making throws, and some of those throws were nice. But does he have the it? Does he have the, dare I say it, the Nick Foles 2017 it factor? Listen, it's not like Nick Foles. If you are a Jimmy Garoppolo fan, you can argue that, hey, listen, Nick Foles isn't that when it comes to his career as a whole, but he had 1 year, not even 1 year, he had one mini run at the end of the season that got hot. If he can do it, could Jimmy Garoppolo do that? Yes. My answer would be yes. But he doesn't have that it factor for me. And I think that ultimately came down to what happened in this one. 3 for 11 in the fourth quarter, an interception. The run game can only take you so far. You need to have a legit threat in both passing and rushing. And I don't know if the 49ers had that. And I think that came down to what costed them later in the game. So let me know your thoughts down below. I'm super pumped for Andy Reid. That's my big takeaway. I love what Mahomes did. I love what Tyreek Hill did. I love what, when you look at the two running backs, Mostert, Damien Williams, two undrafted guys, insane story. Both playing in the Super Bowl. It's awesome. I respect so many other conversations. Bieniemy is going to be in the mix now as well, and I hope that he lands a head coaching job one day because he deserves it. Things like that. There are plenty many storylines. Andy Reid getting the job done, it tops it all. Mahomes is 24 years old. He has a really bad football game. He's going to have a super bright future. Andy Reid won the Super Bowl. It's the headline. It's what matters most. That's all this guy needed to check off the bucket list. And I'm super proud. I'm telling you, I was really emotional about it. And I don't know why. I didn't expect it to hit me like this. I was rooting for him. But when it happened and during those moments, I'm clapping, I'm screaming. I didn't really think it would be that way. But my emotions took over. And clearly, I was all in on Big Red. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And I will see you next time.